Sudani Osby, a junior at the High School of Fashion Industries in Chelsea, squinted as she emerged from the darkroom holding a freshly printed 8 by 10 photograph. She had used a decades-old Pentax film camera with a 35mm lens to shoot the photograph. But the borders on the glossy black and white print were out of proportion, again. "It rarely comes out the way you want it to," said Ms. Osby, 16, as she peered at the photograph, still wet from the chemicals used to make the print. "But when it does, it's satisfying." As younger generations embrace vintage things like vinyl records and early gaming consoles, more students have become interested in old-school photography, increasing the demand for analog photography classes in high schools across Manhattan. And the High School of Fashion Industries is one of a handful of public schools that still offer analog photography classes. Schools with rigorous art programs and darkrooms have become the stewards of the dying practice that dominated the world for over 100 years. "Digital is too easy, in that you can take a lot of pictures at a time," said Ben Russell, the photography teacher at the school. "Film slows you down because the amount of film limits you. It really makes you think about the photograph you're creating." Using film, teachers said, helps students learn the fundamental elements of photography, and patience. The step-by-step, hands-on tinkering with chemicals and light exposure required to produce just a single photograph can take students several days. That slow process is valuable, Mr. Russell said. The other thing it teaches you is problem-solving skills because everything is computerized today. People don't do things with their hands anymore. The school has offered analog photography classes for almost 2 decades in collaboration with the International Center of Photography, one of the world's leading institutions dedicated to photography, based in Manhattan. Students spend 90 minutes each day in the darkroom learning the ins and outs, the basics of shooting photographs using film in dinged-up Pentax K1000s and the chemical process of developing film, including the meticulous precision of printing in the dark. "When I tell my friends, they wish they were in my class," said Kiera Jorge, a junior from the Bronx. "I think it's fun because it's not usual. But it was once." Inspired by street and documentary-based photography of the early 1900s, photography boomed in Manhattan between 1925 and 1950, when news organizations, advertising agencies, and fashion firms began establishing themselves there. City apartments were too small for darkrooms and equipment was expensive, so amateurs and professionals banded in clubs to create darkrooms for collective use across the city. Ellen Joan Handy, an associate professor of art history at the City College of New York, said. Rental darkrooms became a common sight in the late 1960s in areas like the Flatiron District, sometimes known as the Photo District, a popular neighborhood for photographers seeking inexpensive lofts. Colleges and art schools began offering photography classes and darkrooms started popping up in high schools across the country around the 1960s, Professor Handy said.